Hello and good evening. Welcome to Popcast on the Rocks, episode 39. It's Tuesday. How's it
Mm-hmm.
going, Andrea?
Good, good. It's the Tuesday before Turkey Day, as it were. And I'm loving this
Oh,
short work week. Can't complain about that at all. Thanksgiving has
nice.
always been one of my favorite holidays. I love food and I love football. So looking forward to Thursday. How
There
about
you go.
yourself?
Yeah, it's going well. Um, I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving as well. Um, we had Ashley's birthday last week slash this
Yes.
weekend. So
Yes. I heard you made a killer Mexican chocolate cake that was
yeah,
restaurant quality. And those are
well,
those are some chef words, so be proud, man. Tell us all
yeah,
about
well,
it.
I feel like I may have made this cake before, but then I just thought, well, it seems kind of simple. So I was I forget what it was out of the cupboard. And I thought, well, maybe we have some cayenne pepper. And so I found some chili powder and very carefully just added that to the frosting. So it really is pretty much a chocolate cake, but I just add some heat and it worked out well. And then it was my first time playing with fondant. So
Oh, nice.
um
How did that go?
it had I was it was
Was a great noise.
yeah, I mean, I'll do better next time. I'll do better next time.
Sure.
I think learned a
Everybody's
few
gotta
things.
start somewhere.
I mean, it still tasted good. Next time maybe I'll make my own fondant. I saw that there is, it's not too difficult to do that out of like marshmallows and stuff. So,
Okay.
um may do that next time. And yeah, and then I decorate it with like an Xbox logo so
Sweet.
yeah.
Nice.
um so yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it sounds
Yep.
pretty awesome. I don't remember the last time Chris made me a cake, so, you know,
Oh.
gonna have to, like, point this out, gonna have to point him to this episode and be like, "Look at everything that John put into it. He played with
That
fondant, for
is
God's
true.
sake."
It's yeah, it's I mean, I think I mean last year I made her then an N7 cake, so it was a Mass Effect cake. That's how I decorated that one. But
Okay.
Chris usually makes you breakfast though, right?
He does. He's very sweet. He usually makes, like, cute, like, shaped pancakes or French toast or,
Hmm.
something elaborate. The year he went to New Orleans, he made me beignets, so that was fun
Okay.
because he brought back, like, a mix from there, so yeah, so he
Okay.
does, but I don't know. Like, I just think, like, a decorated cake would be cool.
Well, I mean, I have to say that a decorated cake does take more effort than
Yes.
a breakfast. But beignets, I mean, if you're gonna fry them, I mean, that's
That
certainly
that was
making a mess, anyways.
Yes, that was definitely a learning curve that he had. The first
Hmm.
couple were definitely like, maybe we'll just leave those
Oil not
on the
hot
plate."
enough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, no, they turned out really excellent. So yeah, so I was proud of him for that
nice,
one.
cool. Well, you had a better weekend this weekend than last weekend.
I did indeed. I mean, I still,
Low
it's
bar.
yeah, yeah. I pretty much, walked right over that low bar. Um, but my weekend was good, just I was able to get outside this weekend, so that was, like, a big deal. I got outside to go for a walk,
Sure.
because I can now walk around outside even though I still, like, hunch over. It's like semi Quasimodo. The neighbors are like, "Okay." But, I'm out there. I'm trying.
You
So,
just give those neighbors a stink eye. Just
that's
kind of like
right.
kind of runs and shout in their direction.
I really thought I almost did this, but I didn't because I had Ivy with me and I had her leash to deal with and my own, like, shuffle that I had to do. But we have, like, an old walking stick from Chris's dad that I don't know why, just,
Mm.
like, left here. I thought about, like, taking the walking stick and just, like,
Yeah.
shouting and like pointing with my walking stick. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's when I know I've officially hit like 80 years old. And I'm like,
Yeah.
damn kids, mind your business.
I know what to get you for the next gift. I'm gonna get you a hurricane. Yeah.
It'd be so cool.
Punk
Is
shop.
that one of those like fold out ones?
I forget. I just heard it. I heard it being advertised in the background on TV today.
Sure.
I didn't go and look at it again, but I was like, oh, I forgot about that creation. I think it's got the 4 feet,
Yeah,
so it's
totally. It's
extra
like
stable.
stable. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. No, I'm pretty actually infamous for my leg injuries being like rather debilitating. One of the most traumatic experiences I ever had was back in high school. It was going into my senior years, the summer between junior and senior year, and we are taking a trip to Italy and Greece. And we had like done all this work all year. We'd like fundraised for it, and I like signed up really early, so I was like one of the few select students who got to go. And I got to Italy and um, on a cobblestone street rolled my ankle, and
Mm.
then also got like a bug bite on that same leg that I was apparently allergic to. So like 2 days into our trip, my leg is like swollen to 3 times its size. I'm in a foreign country. I can't walk. They had to rush me to the ER. And then by the time, everybody was done yelling at me in Greek, I came out with some antibiotics and stuff and a cane that I had to use for the rest of the trip. So like all these pictures you can see me, I'm like posed in front of the Colosseum, or I'm like posed, like on a mountaintop in Greece, and I'm just like hanging with my, bright yellow cane
Yeah.
at 17 years old. I'm just like
Yep.
hobbling around the Greek countryside. Oh man, it was a
Extra
mess.
memories.
Yep, that's
Yep.
right. That's right. I almost missed out on going to see the Acropolis actually. Um,
Mm.
because I wasn't the first time my class went, I wasn't well enough to walk up there with them.
Okay.
And like one of our very, very
Carry
nice
me.
I know, right? Come on, man. We're all the way here. Um,
Mhm.
what happened to like, musketeers? We all stick together.
That's right.
But my one of my very nice chaperones took a day where we had like a free afternoon and took me specially. So that was very sweet.
Okay.
But
Nice.
yeah, certainly not the first time I've dealt with, severe leg injury, and certainly not the first time I've used
Yeah.
a cane in my life.
Well,
So
then you stepped on a nail the
I
last, right?
did. I did. That's right. Just this
Like
summer,
badly, yeah.
I stepped on a
Mhm.
nail. Yeah. Yeah. No cane necessary on that one, but it was a close one. If it was a little higher up, who knows? So
Yeah.
yeah, I really gotta be more careful. I gotta watch it.
Well, do you pick up Assassin's Creed Valhalla at all? Or you wait until Christmas or
I haven't picked it up yet. I have ordered it though. It is going to be part of Chris's Christmas present, as per usual.
oh,
When a Assassin's Creed comes out, he always
nice.
likes getting that in his stocking for Christmas. So figured
Cool.
I'll wait and we'll get it over Christmas break.
Yep.
Have you gotten it yet?
Well, no. Nope. Too many other things on the agenda
For sure.
for Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
For sure.
Um, I'm kind of surprised I actually didn't jump on it, but
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know. Just didn't. Yeah, very very strange. In a way, because the only game Assassin's Creed that she's played and really liked was Odyssey.
Right.
And but she's into the Viking stuff, and based on liking that one, I figured she'd like this then too. But it is the other team that makes Assassin's Creed. Like there's the two teams, and this is the other one.
Right.
So, but I don't know. We'll see when it's cheap sometime, or it comes to Game Pass or something like that. So,
Sure.
not as many drink holidays, huh? Kind of surprisingly around Thanksgiving.
That's right. Just yesterday was National Espresso Day. So I'm having a little espresso to celebrate that because that's one of the things I can have still in moderation. Um,
Well, that's gonna keep you up.
I know. Gonna make me go crazy.
Be wired.
That's right. Maybe I'll try walking without the walking stick. Woo. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it for drink holidays. Although obviously, like we just said, holidays, Thanksgiving is coming up. Do you normally have like a drink with your family or like anything fun that you do?
I can't say there's anything traditional,
Okay.
but yeah, we usually have stuff around and available.
Sure.
Some sort of beer or a wine with the meal or something maybe.
Sure.
Um, we have done parties in the past where I think people have made some sort of punch, or my mom likes to make like a slush kind of thing.
Oh,
It's like
okay.
a slushy, you scoop it in, you drink, and then you
Sure.
fill it up with
Yeah.
ginger ale or whatever. Well, you can
Sure.
add some booze to that if you want. So we've done that before.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I feel like my
how about you?
family, yeah, they were really into punches for a while. I feel like our staple is like wine. The guys usually drink beer while they watch football, which is, pretty status
Pretty
quo,
standard.
pretty
Mm.
stereotypical. And then yeah, like my grandma's been really into like every holiday has like a special drink. It doesn't always like match the holiday. Sometimes it's
Mm.
like, just like whatever, or she like sees a recipe or she like sees like a booze that she has. She's like, I just want to make something with this. But I feel like Thanksgiving was like she was really into punches for a long, long time. So we had a lot of different
Sure.
variations of that. So
I like punch. Good
yep.
punch.
Yep. She likes to make it strong too. I mean, my German grandma, she's
Nice.
ready to party with that punch. So, don't always trust it. It's like college grade sometimes. So
Okay. Well, I mean, okay, in terms of strength, in terms of quality, I don't know how that, yeah, if that's a
yeah,
standard to live up to.
that's true. I mean, I should say not like freshman college when you're like more like a senior and you actually like know what
Okay.
you're doing type of thing.
Okay. All right. WAP or
Yes,
something.
exactly. It's deceptive.
hmm well, so I watched quickly before we recorded tonight. I watched the latest Potomac,
Oh,
and
okay.
they're in Portugal right now,
Mhm.
and um, what Merida, Portugal, I think. Yeah, and anyways, they
Cool.
have a popular drink there, I guess, that's called puncha, and
I think I've heard of that. What's in that?
well, the recipe they did on there, they shared, they said was more traditional, was um, rum, lemon juice, honey, and orange juice.
Okay.
And so it seemed very fresh. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I can make something like that.
Okay.
But I thought I had lemons. I do not have lemons. Um, And there's another recipe I saw that when I was looking it up that says honey, sugarcane brandy, and lemon juice. So it's like that
Okay.
one's even further from what I have. So basically, what I did is it's inspired by the drink that I saw on that show by Puncha from Portugal,
Okay.
and it is rum and contru for the orange element,
Sure.
along with orange bitters, getting that orange in there.
That's right. That's right.
Honey, I definitely have honey. And then my other citrus is lime juice instead of lemon. So
Okay. How is it?
I did what I could. It's
Yes.
very good. I
Good.
mean, um, it's sour, but
Sure.
I like that. So
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like I
using
would
a
like that. I like tart stuff.
yeah, tart, refreshing. It's we've got a small batch rum from was Norseman Brewing or Distillery. I
Yeah.
forget which one it
Mhm.
is around. Yeah, so
Norseman, yep.
that's good. Yeah. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's good. Good stuff.
All right. Well, then, cheers.
Yeah, cheers. I was gonna say that maybe because your family, so they're used to having punch and beer with the football. Maybe you want to instead you make it less stereotypical and
Hmm.
you make them all Cosmos. Make them Cosmos, and then we can use that to transition into our next topic, which is the creator of Sex and the City. You like
Right, right.
Cosmos, right?
That's right. That's iconic. Good
Yeah.
transition.
Yeah, because I have to call it out. It's a good
Yeah.
transition, right?
Yeah.
I'm just naturally doing it. Um, well, you found this New Yorker column,
Yeah.
or calling that new show that you were talking about by the
Emily
Sex
in
and the City.
Paris.
Yes, on Netflix, ambient TV. Now, when I
Mhm.
saw you post this, I thought ambient TV. I thought, to my mind, actual ambient TV, which, as far as I'm aware, like exists. I watch ambient TV in the sense that often it's not on television necessarily, but on
Right.
YouTube, I'll listen to these ambient noises of forest or of
Mhm.
like someplace they'll go to The Witcher and there'll be like 3 hours of Witcher ambience from whatever city, and I'll
Right.
fall asleep to that stuff, or I use it as music in D&D. Or also I would think of when I watch just to feel like I'm in Japan or to see more of it, I watch these people just take their camera on a stabilizing grip
Mhm.
and walk through different parts of Japan,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
So I was very surprised when he was talking about this show and basically the idea that ambient television is something that is designed to be not too engaging, that you may also engage with your smartphone or something else
Mhm.
at the same time.
Yeah, it's basically like a produced version of what you're talking about. So it's like an actual scripted show that's shot, but basically designed to be the background noise to your day, to your work, to your
Mhm.
phone scrolling, to your whatever. And you can like look down and scroll for, however long you want to scroll for, and then you look back up and you're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, cool, I really haven't missed anything." But it's still there, it's still present. So I thought
Mhm.
it was a really interesting concept to, like put all that money into a show that you're producing, that you're, casting, that you're having people act in, and basically telling them like you're just gonna be some background noise. Like you're no Game of Thrones, um gosh, I don't know what I can't think of anything other than Game of Thrones right now, but you know
Breaking
what I'm
Bad.
saying. Breaking Bad, thank you. You're no like must-see TV. You're just like there to be very comforting in the background while people do other things. So,
Yeah.
I just
So
thought it was
do
a
you
really
feel like
interesting idea.
that's the intent of this show, Emily in Paris? Do you feel like, is there any indication, and reading through that, I don't recall any, that this is an intentional
Sure.
move?
Well, I when I was reading through it the first time, I didn't feel like it was an intentional move by like the show creators, by like Darren Star, or any of the actors. I think Lily Collins, who's the star, also produces the show. I don't think that was her intention, but I can't say that it isn't maybe Netflix's intention to like fund and give a platform to these kind of shows because they're like, yeah, like this is the direction we think people are going. We're gonna have content that's like must see, tune in, crazy, like everybody's talking about it. And then we're gonna have like this other like sort of like easy listening, but easy viewing kind
Yeah.
of content. Um, Especially as, people are kind of confined to their houses. They want something on, they want like the hum present of like other activity, but they can't go anywhere, but
Mhm.
they don't want to like sit down and watch a show. They just want to like have some noise and scroll on their phone. So
Right.
I kind of felt like
Yeah.
maybe
I
this was
mean,
like um a kind of a reactive moment to maybe like the COVID pandemic.
sure. Yeah, I was interested when he was kind of, or I don't know who wrote this really, man or woman, Kyle Chaika.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised at the
Could be either.
description of the show, and I was wondering if the show was kind of embracing all these sort of millennial ideas, um, or if it was commenting on. I mean, like the idea that Sex in the City was something that was very attractive to a group of people that they could like they wanted to live this way. There
Right.
would be some people that vaguely live this way,
Right.
but and so if this is offering something again in a way a commentary or something like, is it poking fun at, or just like this is kind of the reality that we're always living for likes or something, and all of our life is content, always
Hmm.
producing content for things. um I was just wondering, yeah, again, like you say, probably not the intent of the showrunners to
Right.
make this, but are we I don't know, it made me question the the commentary that Darren Star is having or making with this show. Uh,
Yeah. I don't know that of course, I mean, who can speak for Darren Star but Darren Star? But I don't think that he again intended to make such a light show. I think maybe there was supposed to be more there. I mean, I think there was some idea of let's reproduce what I had with Sex and the City. Like let's take, an attractive group of young people. Let's follow some fun high fashion. Let's go to a beautiful city, in this
mhm,
case Paris versus New York. Let's give her a very like fun job that many people would love to have, like social media
mhm.
influencer, marketing exec kind of thing. Carrie was a writer. So I think there was like a familiarity to the formula. Um, but just with Sex in the City, there was sort of a more pointed, I'm making a point. Whereas it with Emily in Paris, it seems the point seems to be trying to be there, but it's so light it gets lost.
Very
And
meandering.
yes, I don't know that maybe Darren Star intended it to be quite this light. I don't think he intended it to be like a
Hmm.
heavy commentary type of show, but I don't think he quite meant for this to happen either. So I think he was
Hmm.
maybe aiming for somewhere in the middle and just kind of like had too light a touch with it.
Do you get the sense that this writer here was looking forward to this show a lot and then disappointed? Because I sensed an anger. I sensed an anger, like a disappointment that this show is so meaningless and it's just
Yeah.
like putting all these tropes of millennials in there. And we have home decorating shows and we have things that people are they're just on the background. And you see angry about this almost
Yeah.
like what is our media coming to, and like we're being taken over by this idea of background noise.
Yeah. I do think there was some anger there. I think there was some maybe frustration with like, what are we even doing? What are we even making television for if it's this like background crap, I think there's a valid point in there. I don't know that it necessarily came across um in the best way or was expressed in like the easiest manner, but I think there is something to be said about um there's television that can be light and fun, and then are we just like mass producing television just to be in the background, and like what is the point? Are we taking away resources from, shows that might not be invested in because they're not this like ambient fun, like we can just have it on whenever? Like are we taking away an opportunity from the next Game of Thrones that has to be something you sit down and watch and consume? Um, so I think there's a worry there for sure that we're moving away from this kind of, focused produced television. And I think that's legit. I mean, I think, you always have to have a balance, and I think um it's far easier to justify the medium of television, the greatness of television and its programming when you have it in the more like serious column versus, when you're
Mhm.
producing show after show of like how many Christmas romantic comedies does Netflix have on rotation right now that are
Yep.
basically like the same plot, just done, 8 to 10 different times in different ways? Did we really
Mhm.
need that? I don't know. But we're having
Right.
it now because it's like the like thing you turn on in the background and it's cute and it's poppy and you can wrap presents and, have a glass of
Yep.
wine and not really pay attention versus something that you
That's the
could
thing
like
to me.
sit down. Yeah, I'm sorry.
There's a point or an audience for all of it, and I'm usually pretty dismissive of the ideas when it gets. Uh, People get worried about trends. They get
Yeah.
worried like so. For a while, it was Jersey Shore, and everybody thought,
Oh
okay,
god.
we're just all TV is going to be is reality TV, trashy reality TV, and that existed, continued to exist, and still is prevalent. But in that time span, we also got The Sopranos. We
Right.
got Battlestar Galactica. We have
Right.
other kind of. There was a big worry. I see this a lot following video games so much, where it was, oh my God, we're not going to have any single player games. It's all going to be
Right.
multiplayer. It's
Right.
all going to be online multiplayer. Well, that didn't happen. Some of the biggest best-selling games this year are Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima. Like those games are still being made and millions of
Right.
dollars are being spent on them.
Right.
We had all games are going to have microtransactions. Everything is going to be a microtransaction. It's
Mhm.
all games are going to be an online persistent world. Like it doesn't happen. Trends come and go. They thought every online it's all gonna Fortnite's taking over. They're all going to be battle royales. All we're going to get now is battle royales. It doesn't work that way. Like there's a big enough market and economy for a variety of things, and
Yes.
trends come and go, and they like get the cultural zeitgeist for a while. They
Mhm.
become a thing, but it doesn't mean everything else goes away. Just because
Right.
one thing is talked about more on Twitter doesn't mean other stuff stops being produced. And was money taken away from something else to do Jersey Shore? It's probably just taken away from another city's cop show, you know, NCIS, wherever else, like we talk about that trend. Like
Yeah,
it's
that's
always
true.
that stuff. And I just think, radio has always played a background role a lot. Radio, I mean, my grandparents always had the radio on, listen to the
Mhm.
stock market updates, and then have polka or something, and it's just there.
Right.
And I just don't see anything wrong with that, I guess. And I don't fear the disappearance of quote unquote real or more demanding or impressive, captivating content. That's my take.
Yeah. I think that's a good reminder to just, like calm down and remember that hey, like these are trends. They're called trends for a reason. They're not,
Yep.
meant to be long lasting. If this is the trend right now, you don't have to love it. Clearly this writer doesn't. Um I'm a little tired, I feel like, because I already feel like there's too much ambient TV to choose from on Netflix that like pops up when they do the
Mhm.
like 60,000 like rom-coms or Christmas movies. I'm just on that right now because of course it's like the holiday season and like
Mhm.
all 20,000 of their same romantic comedies have like been cycling through my Netflix recommended and ads and like the first thing that pops up. So yeah, so I feel like I'm already a little tired of it, but like it's not I don't feel it's like you said destructive to better television on the whole. Do I love
Yep.
this trend? No, but will we live through it? Yes.
It could feel like it if your Netflix algorithm gets fed that too much. Like people are like,
Mhm.
oh my God, all that's coming out is this kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
like they're just hiding the rest from you. You can't.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
hard now because we do have the Netflix top 10, which is kind of fun. I mean, it can really bring you to some
Yeah.
like some weird stuff. But if so many people are watching some of this like ambient television, then that's what's going to be in the top 10. And that's what you're feeling like is everywhere because all of these other
Yep.
accounts are watching it. So of course it's in the top 10. And then you're like, well, should I watch it? It's in the top 10. And then, you kind of get this like you said, like a
Don't
feeding
give in to
cycle
peer
going
pressure.
on. That's right. Um, I tend not to uh look too closely at the top 10, although sometimes you just gotta be like, what are other people watching?
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
No,
but
I'm glad
yeah,
the feature's there now, finally.
yeah.
So Well, one streaming platform to another, HBO
Mm-hmm.
Max and Warner Brothers, they're finally doing the right thing and putting Wonder Woman 1984 onto their streaming platform and in theaters this December.
uh,
Wow.
are they though? Are they
Yeah.
though?
You think it's not going to happen again? You think it's not going to happen? They're
I feel
going to,
lied to so many times, John. Like I just don't even know what to believe anymore.
yeah.
I feel like this
Yep.
movie, just like New Mutants, had so many release
Mm,
dates that I just can't. I don't have a lot of trust here, John. So,
sure.
um, yeah. I mean,
Yeah. I think
I'm
New Mutants is
hopeful.
available.
What? Sorry.
I think New Mutants is available now
I
as
know.
well.
They did finally cave,
Purchase.
but that was also like the second most moved movie, I feel like,
Yeah.
over the course of the year.
Bond's
Um
going to beat them.
that's right. That's right. Disney's got a slew of other movies too. They could still pull their Black Widow and move it around a bunch and compete
Yep.
in the most moved movie. But yeah, no, I'm excited. If this is real, this is a wonderful Christmas present. Great job. Get it out there.
Yeah. No, I hope it I mean, you know, yay, go, Hollywood studio, but I hope that it does well for them so we start
Yes.
getting some of these other films released
Yes.
uh in all and every way possible. Just
Hmm.
get it out there. Like, does it matter where the money comes from when
Right.
it comes to this, Like people
Right.
see it in theater or they're streaming it or they're buying it digitally, they're buying it physically, just put it out there.
Yep.
I know you don't get the one number to say at the box
Right.
office, or I
Right.
know you don't get that, but time to move on.
But yeah, who's getting it? It's not like it's, you know, some movies are getting it and others aren't. It's nobody's getting that big box office
Yeah.
number. So
You
just
could still say number
collectively get
one.
over. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Collectively get over it, you know? I mean, nobody's getting their box office returns in 2020, so just move on and hope for 2021.
Yep. Well, lots of movies make it up in the after theatrical launch. They have
Very
a
true.
second win. They may make it or break it on their DVD, Blu-ray sales, all that kind of thing.
Right? Or their
So,
global
yeah.
release. So just yeah,
Yep.
it's going to be fine.
Another movie coming out
Mhm.
this year, I guess, Chaos Walking. So
Yeah,
Tom Holland, he's getting the roles these days,
he is
and
indeed.
Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones is in this, as well as Mads Mikkelsen. Um, Daisy Ridley. Daisy Ridley. That's
Okay,
the
I was like,
one.
"Wait a minute. When did I miss Amelia Clark?" Man.
Daisy Ridley.
I know I was taking pain
I
meds for my
mean,
leg today, but I don't think I
they're
hallucinated Amelia Clark. Okay.
God, those two white girls look. I mean, white people all look the same, so I just got them confused.
Daisy
Um,
really does have very, like, Daenerys hair going on in this trailer.
Something.
So
Yeah.
I can forgive that. It's a very weird blonde thing that's going on with her head. Not sure I like it.
Well, I watched this trailer again, Chaos Walking, and I thought this feels like a good movie. I don't know. It
Mhm.
seemed exciting. It seemed a little different.
Mhm.
Not just another thing or whatever. Yeah, I was kind of interested. It seems like the premise is that there's a planet must be only men there, and you can see their thoughts. Their thoughts are literally visualized around them
Yes.
in a way.
Yes.
And so um, Daisy Ridley gets there and on this planet crashes or something and is obviously going to be sought after for one
Mhm.
reason or another.
Mhm.
Um, and her thoughts are not projected in
Right.
this manner.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
What'd you think?
it seemed really, really an interesting concept. It would be, I think, very disconcerting to be on either
Yep.
side of that, you know, to either have your thoughts projected out loud or, you know, to be on the reverse of it where you could hear slash see all these thoughts and like not have your own projected. I think that's a really
Yep.
interesting concept. And it really shifts I think, power dynamic between, you know, like the sexes. I think it's a really interesting exploration of like, what if men had all their thoughts on display, but women didn't? That's a really interesting
Mhm.
concept to me. The only criticism or perhaps, early question, that the movie has yet to address, because of course it's only a trailer, that I had upon watching it was there's a scene where I think Tom Holland is confronting, forgive me if I'm wrong, Nick Jonas, who is somehow in this
Oh.
movie, and
Mhm.
is like thinking snake, 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 and then suddenly like a snake literally pops out of his like thought
Interesting.
cloud, whatever. And I was like,
Okay.
oh, like, so how visual do we mean this thing? Like
Mm.
your thoughts are like
Like you
on
can literally
right.
create,
Can you
bring
conjure? Can
something
you
to existence.
create? Is this just like a hollow image that somehow he can project? So it was very like interesting because that's the one moment that I
Mm.
saw it like not just be like a thought purple haze cloud.
Yeah.
Don't know how else to describe that.
Interesting.
So
Maybe he
yes,
thinks that person is a snake, and so therefore it was represented in a visual manner that way.
right.
Like he's a
But
shady
I
character, and he's
right.
a
And that's what I
yeah.
was thinking, but I was just wondering like so how real is this like
Yeah.
visualization? Like what else can be done with it other than you can like see the thought cloud and like hear out
Yeah.
loud what they're saying. So,
Like, oh my god, I wouldn't want to start a fire, and then it
right.
starts a fire. You're like,
Right, yeah. Like how literal are they going to go with this? So I'm interested to see how they kind of address whatever moment that was and then address any sort of limitations to, of course, like if you thought anything, what could
yep.
happen. So,
Any thing that that's like this that starts making you think a little bit about where it could go or whatever. I
mhm.
always imagine, oh man, it should be a TV show. More time to explore because
Sure.
like it's a lot to cram into whatever time. So
Yeah. Overall good
um
though. Intriguing
yeah.
trailer. I'd take a look at it on whatever however it's released on whatever streaming
Yep.
platform or theater.
Well, we should run through these quicker because we've
Sure.
been used to having, I feel like, slower weeks, and we got a lot of stuff now, and I
We
blabbered on.
do.
So, the just quickly from not a movie but a movie property,
Mhm.
007 James Bond. They have over at IO Interactive, the people behind Hitman, the video game. They
Mhm.
have something called Project 007 that they're working on.
Mhm.
Seems like a good fit for a new Bond game.
Mhm.
Have you played Hitman?
Not yet.
All right. Well, Goldeneye was awesome back in the day. I'd be good for another good Bond game. So,
Yeah.
in other video game news, the PlayStation 5, I have still not been able to get my hands on one, but that's not the news. The news is there are a lot of bots and scalpers out there.
Mhm.
They're right now it seems like stock is almost being controlled by a handful of um, scalping groups.
Mhm.
Um, Therefore, PlayStation 5s are going for well over $1,000
Yep.
on eBay and such. Um, I would think it would be in the interest of these retailers to implement a way to crack down on this because I think they're really the only ones that can.
Right.
Um, the other line of thought is, well, they're selling the systems, they're being sold, they're making the money, so whatever.
Mhm.
But man, you would gain some customers, brownie points if you were the one that had the effective, efficient checkout process
Right.
and ensured that real people actually got their system.
Yes.
So it's a real issue right now. Doesn't look like it's going to end.
Mhm.
Um, so
It's
yeah,
too bad. It's really too
it.
bad.
I mean, think about. I mean, like I can't get one. Okay, whatever. Ultimately, but think of all the kids out there,
Right.
really, that like a new system's out and their parents are ready to get them the next PlayStation, and
Right.
they just can't
They're so
unless they
excited
go
about
on
it.
eBay and pay $1,500
Right,
for a
which is
$400 or $500
ridiculous.
system.
Which is
Right.
ridiculous. I mean, I just could never imagine paying that much. That's just
Yep.
silly. I mean, whatever. If you're
I
like a single person, you make your own money, you decide what you want to do with it, whatever. But like when you're the parent of a kid, like you just don't shell out $1,500 for a system. Like that's not the kind
well,
of money
I
you
feel
have.
like Arnold the Schwarzenegger in Jingle All the Way,
Yeah.
desperately trying to find the
Right.
one toy, except in that
Right.
case, it's his fault because he was a deadbeat dad until he like learned and whatever. But in this circumstance, yeah, there's not much you're gonna do about it.
Alan's
Um,
calling it out. Jingle all the way. It's hometown representing
I know
Minnesota. They
it's
did try.
it's
They did
bad but
try.
good. Yep.
They do have some iconic Minnesota imagery.
Hmm. Yep.
But anyway, to steer back on topic. It does truly feel that way. Like the better version of Arnold Schwarzenegger's dad, who's actually trying for their kid, is being denied because a bunch of people are getting together and basically price gouging. And it's not cool.
And I don't think there's anything. Again, I don't think it should be illegal or anything. It's just gross, and the retailers. I wish the retailers would crack down on it.
Yes.
You know,
Yep.
they want their customers to be happy. It's one per customer. That's
Right.
you implement that rule for a reason. Enforce it. Make it work
Right.
now.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's always going to be things that like slip through the cracks and no system is going to be perfect, but just with the sheer volume it sounds like this is happening, it seems like there's a way that some of this at least could be prevented. So,
yep.
somebody get on it.
Yep. Moving to our topic of the day, basically, as we get there, Cyberpunk 2077 has leaked some copies of that. It seems like it's leaked. So everybody, it's just PSA. If you're interested in Cyberpunk 2077, the video game, watch out for spoilers because we still have till December 10th.
That's right.
Till that hits the streets for real. So more things getting out there. More on retailers, it seems like. Seems like copies were sent to retailers and getting out that way. So in happier news, Blade Runner Origin, the comic, is coming out February 24th.
Yeah.
So could have set that up earlier that we're going to be talking about Blade Runner. And I hope our new intro for today's episode was cyberpunk-ish. But yeah, they're writing an origin story, prequel.
They
for
are.
the first Blade Runner movie.
They are. I think it's very fitting because some of the kind of trivia I was reading about Blade Runner 2049, which we'll also be talking about, was saying that the original idea before they really even drafted a script was that they were going to do a prequel to Blade Runner, and then they ended up scrapping that and deciding to do a sequel instead. So that's kind of cool that like they're now going back with like this Blade Runner origin comic. And then I was also reading on the site, of course, that they're going to be doing another very different sequel, Blade Runner 2029. And that's, I think, coming out next year sometime after February, possibly later in the year. I don't remember if I checked
Another
that
comic.
date. But yeah, another comic. So it's kind of very like, I don't know, homage-y in the sense of like it's following the films. Like we got the original, we were gonna do an origin, then we're gonna do a sequel. So very cool.
Yep. So I told Shane and Emily that I finally watched Blade Runner 2049 because they a while ago, some time ago, they were going to talk about it. It's like, oh, I haven't seen it yet. And Shane said, oh, well, if you haven't seen it after 6 months or something, I guarantee you're not going to see it. And I said, well, I finally saw it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, but one of the comments he had made was how Ridley Scott, he feels, does a, paraphrasing, but he does a good job of leaving you wanting more, having going in with a bunch of questions and coming out with a bunch of questions. And I kind of agree. And I think that's important to to world building, really. Because it makes the world feel large when you have when you set something up and you add in a lot of things that aren't necessarily explained. There's a story behind that. You might not get it. and your
Yeah.
imagination gets to wander with it. So, though I'm happy that Blade Runner is getting some more content, at the same time, I honestly would be happy with just the Blade Runner film, just the
Sure.
one Blade Runner.
Sure.
So we both watched Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. What did
hmm
you think of the original Blade Runner, and what version did you watch?
Okay.
Because there are like four of
My overall review, I hope is going to be spoiler free, but I'm sure we'll have
Oh yeah, we're
spoilers
gonna have spoilers.
coming up. So maybe we'll throw that up there. I think maybe Alan had asked about that. So yes, spoiler alert time. Um, Overall, I really enjoyed Blade Runner. So to start with the original, I watched the theatrical cut. Um,
Okay.
so I did not watch any other. I think there's what the directors, the final. There might be one other cut as well.
There's one more. I don't know which one that is,
Okay. All right.
but yeah, there's supposed to be four.
Okay.
So
So yeah, so I watched the original film as it was released. I really enjoyed it because actually of the very thing that you were just describing, there's not a lot of hand holding in Blade Runner. You kind of have to keep up. You have to assume things. You have to put the pieces together. They don't always quite click instantaneously the way that I feel like modern cinema tries to do. Even when it leaves you guessing, I feel like modern cinema still has that little bit of like narrative handholding that it feels like it has to just to make sure the audience gets it. And I really didn't feel that with Blade Runner. So I really kind of liked that sense that I was really following the movie and I really had to follow what was happening instead of like feeling like, oh, I have enough of the pieces, I can put this together and I can like jump ahead and I know what's going to happen. So that was kind of like a fun I don't know, it felt like almost like a throwback to me to like movies from like the 80s and 90s that I used to watch where it's just like taking you on a journey, hope you're coming. So,
well, I mean, yeah, this was late. I should have looked up the year. It came out like 79 or something,
mhm.
late 70s.
82.
82. Okay.
82. Thank you, Alan.
So I thought it was interesting. I watched it with the director commentary, which I feel like I have actually seen before.
Okay.
Um, and then afterwards I went and like just rewatched two of my favorite scenes, basically. But
Sure.
yeah, I watched the final cut with the Ridley Scott commentary, and he, speaking of the time period, really emphasized a couple of times how he felt that the film was, one, holds up, but two,
Mhm.
influenced, particularly fashion.
Yeah.
It was in
Mhm.
his mind that like the shoulder pads, the wide shoulders that Rachel wore and stuff, a lot
Mhm.
of that, he would talk to rock stars and architects and stuff, and they would tell him they watch these movies and they get a lot of inspiration from them.
Sure.
And so yeah, I felt pretty proud that he felt his movie affected architecture and fashion and stuff, um, which I hadn't thought of. But yeah, being early in the 80s, you always get
Mhm.
that early decade holdovers from
Yes.
the previous generation. So this movie would normally feel a lot more 70s, but it really does feel, at least in my sort of like nostalgia brain, like
Mhm.
an 80s thing.
I agree.
Um, so it makes sense that it was on the cutting edge of defining the decade.
Absolutely. I agree. From everything from the fashion to the background, it's so clearly 80s. I just think like the
Mhm.
color palette, the neon, which I know is like cyberpunk, but it also is very 80s. Everything felt um just very grounded in that decade for sure.
Yep. And we'll have to doing more Cyberpunk episodes as we come, up to the game launch here. So delve in that a bit more of like where this sort of comes from. But like when, at least for me, when I think of Cyberpunk, this is what I think of,
Mm-hmm.
basically, even though this is inspired by, based on a Philip Dick book
Mm-hmm.
that came earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting, where does it really ultimately come from, even though in
Right.
my mind it's grounded in the 80s.
Yes.
I was interested to see that there are still a fair number of companies that exist in this far off time. Citizen, Budweiser, Atari,
Yep.
Bulova, Pan Am, TDK.
Yep.
Yep, Atari's making a comeback.
Yeah, it's hard to, even though you're projecting into the future, it's hard to escape your present. I think that's something that Altered Carbon does really well, because you don't see a whole lot of like branding in in gosh, what Harlan's World. Took me a minute to think of
Mm,
where they are.
mm,
You don't really see a whole lot of branding or things like that. You don't see like a Budweiser bottle or whatever in the background. So I think that's something that does really well. But I think especially for thinking of shooting in the 80s, it's hard to like escape some sense of like this stuff is already here and we're gonna be placing it in our movie. It's hard to
yeah,
imagine even a future, gosh, for them, that would be what, like 70 years down the road, where Budweiser isn't there or something.
sure. I mean, there's something to me, and I guess it's part of what, one thing I am less excited about the Cyberpunk game and other Cyberpunk stuff that comes out now often, but I
Mhm.
appreciate the idea that, so when they're going through the computer system, that the computers that look old, by today's standard, yet this is
Mhm.
supposed to be a futuristic thing.
Right.
There's a Nexus 6 model of Replicant that was made in April of 2017,
Yep.
and Pre was made in on Valentine's Day 2016.
Yep.
So dates that have already passed, and I love this.
Mhm.
It's the same as like watching another Ridley Scott film, Alien, and they're it's clearly in the future, and they're going into space, and all the computers, they feel real but old and physical. Everything is this
Yes.
analog stuff, and I like that fantasy element to the sci-fi in that way, like
Mhm.
a kind of separate timeline. So it's something that
Sure.
I think Blade Runner runs into an issue with potentially, is Blade Runner 2049 feels further in the future, but
Yeah.
in Blade Runner universe, that's got to be when makes sense to place it there.
Yeah.
So, when you write an origin story for Blade Runner, it's going to be stuff that's already passed. It's going to be
Right.
stuff that's already, you know. But I like that. I don't know. I like it.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to like look back at them looking ahead to see,
Hmm.
what people thought would be
Yes.
possible or um potentially possible. It's kind of fun to see what could have imagined. It's almost funny in a way that we haven't progressed as much in some manners as we think we would, and then in other ways, we've surpassed our
Yep.
technology. Like in the sense of we don't have things like replicants that we know
Right.
of. Like let's keep it in the realm of like what we know broadly. We don't have things like replicants, but like our actual computers are much more sophisticated. We have things like smartphones. It's just like, where did you decide to allocate this kind of technology and what would it be used for
Yep.
and what did we invest in? Because I think there's no reason that we couldn't. We already have, of course, robots. We could have invested more resources. And when I say we, I just mean like global population, not any one country or technology.
Hmm.
Um, People could have invested resources in making them more human, like replicants from Blade Runner um, or like uh, Westworldian kind of,
Yep.
hosts, whatever euphemism you want to call them. Definitely could have it. We just don't.
Yep. Yep. I mean, yeah, if we had that had been the singular focus or the singular drive
Hmm.
for some number of people, who
Right.
knows?
Right.
But yeah, I like that. Interesting seeing what where we always get it. We always, it's amazing the things we predict. We
Mm-hmm.
just always predict the wrong things for the time scale.
Yeah.
Like, it's always flying cars. Flying
Yes.
cars. Well, if you look at Back to the Future Part 2, a lot of that stuff exists now. There was a thing a
Exactly.
while ago when we hit the year that movie was supposed to take place in, and they were going through it. And but not flying cars and not
Yep.
time travel, and not a number of big
Yep.
things. But Star Trek does not exist. But I tell you, communicators sure do.
Yep.
So
Yeah, it's
yeah.
always like these like modes of transportation that we think we're gonna have.
Hmm.
You know what like you said, flying cars, obviously the biggest one, like that we always think is like in the future is
Yep.
flying cars. But then, like more like spacecraft travel, like with Star Trek, like a Starfleet program.
Yep.
The technology is there. We just don't have like commercially available, Starfleet ships to like go off into the universe. We don't do
Yep.
that. So yeah, it is funny. We just like think that we're gonna be like flying all over the place and we're not really doing that.
Yep. There's a lot of interesting sort of quotes I took down from Ridley Scott, or paraphrased, anyways.
Sure.
Um, he mentions, because of when talking about this, he says, "I think we've crossed the line into too much fantasy."
Mm,
And in referring to a lot of other sci-fi and horror that he would
mhm.
watch, and so he always was working to like make, in his mind, real science fiction. He
Sure.
really wanted stuff to be grounded or to make sense, as
Mhm.
opposed to just so flying cars, I guess, would be the thing that maybe included that, not so much, but a lot of
Mhm.
other things.
Yeah.
um he talked too about like the old work schedule and stuff. He said in those days you'd shoot around the clock. Start at 6, you'd be done at 6. Like you just go all day.
Mhm.
Um, so it's pretty well known that Harrison Ford's talked about how tough that shoot was, and
Yeah.
Ridley Scott agrees it was a tough shoot. So, um, what else? I love the vibe. I love the feeling, the atmosphere that this film creates. There's some really great scenes.
Mhm.
Like the interview scene. That's when I went back and rewatched, was the interview scene
Yeah.
when Harrison Ford is first meeting Rachel. I love the amber hues in there. I love
Mhm.
the large columns and the way that they'd always have the like rippling water look to the
Mhm.
light on the walls and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so I like a lot of that, and also Vangelis's soundtrack. Um,
Mhm. Yeah. I feel like part of the look that I really loved really pops out in the interview scene because of course with the storyline they're so interested in eye movements all the time of replicants. They're always like
mm,
like
hmm.
look up and to the left and what are your pupils doing in responses to all of these questions. I really loved in the original Blade Runner how they were always playing with light and the reflection that you sort of get um in your pupils and your irises when like certain
Yep.
lights hit them and it almost gets reflective. I loved how they played with that all of the time in this movie. So it kind of always like left you guessing as to, is this like a sign? Is this a replicant thing? Is this, some sort of are we really trying to get reflective on like these eyes as the window to the soul? What is a soul? Can you see it? Can you not? And like what is this test designed to do? So just I really loved the very like you said the very warm amber hues especially that were popping out in that interview just because I think they reflected beautifully um onto Rachel's eyes and enhance that effect that I feel like I saw multiple times throughout the movie.
Yeah. So Ridley Scott talked about that. He said it's a pretty simple trick with taking this type of
Sure.
glass that you put at like a 45-degree angle, and the
Mm,
way it would shoot through that, it would just bounce off the back of your retinas. He said
mhm,
your retinas are so much more sensitive and advanced than, or your image sensor or whatever.
Sure.
And so yeah, you're just bouncing light right off the back of someone's eye, and so that was a really easy but effective thing. And so then as you
Hmm.
got further away, it would like dissipates, and you come in, and it would be there. And
Yeah, I loved that. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie. It was really just those like close-up shots of that.
yep. He talked a lot about, again, I think it defined the genre in a lot of way. There's a lot of different Asian script, particularly Japanese around and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And, he just said like, the idea is that the most people are from China or Southeast Asia, like those populations and stuff. So it would make sense to have a large influence
Mm-hmm.
of that in your world.
Yeah.
Um, let's see what else. Trying to balance like talking about the film and then talking about Ridley Scott talking about the film. He kind of talked about the toxic overload of noise. So
Sure.
they was trying to do that. He was trying to emulate that or have that be part of the city, where it's
Mm-hmm.
just like so much, it's just packed and it's just too much to hardly handle.
Absolutely.
In terms of noise and chaos. So
Yeah, I think it really works for um contrasting, like quieter scenes like the interview, or like all of our scenes with Deckard and Rachel in his apartment, because obviously it's just so quiet there. You just
mhm,
really feel like you're paying attention because you've been so overloaded with noise in the city. Um, but it really, I think, works for some of the chase scenes. Like I don't remember. I don't think the snake charmer had a name. If they did, I totally
I don't know.
forgot it. But
I don't.
when Deckard's trying to chase them down, and and it's just like utter madness, and he can't find her. And like I just remember thinking in the midst of all of that, there were those like walks, blaring noises going on. And I was like, is anybody even listening to that? It's just like a moving mass of like people that
Mm-hmm.
are just like constantly fluctuating in and out of each other's orbit. I don't think there's like anybody stopping when this thing
Yeah.
doesn't say walk. So it did really convey this just like massive chaos of a system,
Yep.
that just is inhabited by too many people to just even function properly. So
Yep.
that was a great effect.
Um, they the eyeball, we were talking about the eyes. The eyeball, I
Yeah.
guess, represented to him, it was, they kind of opened that way and stuff, was representative of the idea of the watchful eye of Big Brother.
Oh yeah,
So
sure.
it's the idea of he had brought a lot of Orwellian ideas, he thought,
Yeah.
to this. So I was interested to hear that. Um,
Hmm.
but I guess there are 5 versions of the film. I did take note of that, and I was looking up. So I don't think they're counting the 2 like prototype or sneak peek versions. There's a theatrical, U.S. theatrical,
Okay.
international theatrical, U.S.
Holy cow.
broadcast, director's cut, and final cut.
Okay. I think
So
I watched the US theatrical, but now I don't know.
where did you watch it?
Amazon Prime.
Okay,
So
interesting. That would be, uh, yeah. I'd have to look. I wonder what. I'm surprised that it
I
would
saw
be
I
the
still have
theatrical.
it. I mean, I should load it up. Let's see.
I should watch the other ones. I just have owned the final cut, and so that's what I have watched.
Sure. Let's see.
I'm sure
Blade
the
Runner.
broadcast version cuts out violence and nudity, so whatever there.
Definitely saw some nudity, so I'm pretty sure got some of
Yeah,
that. Let's see.
I would think.
Doesn't really say other than it's Blade Runner 1982, rated R. Yeah, not a whole lot of detail.
Hmm.
So I don't know which one it is now.
Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting that the director's cut was not, it's noted here on Wikipedia that the final cut is the only version in which Ridley Scott had complete artistic control over
Oh,
the
that is
production,
interesting.
whereas the director's cut was not the case.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
That is interesting since he is the director.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make a whole lot of
So,
sense, but sure.
so that
So clearly
wait,
there was
yours
some.
isn't saying?
No,
Yours isn't saying?
nope.
Oh, weird. Does it say a year?
Just 1982.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, maybe it's theatrical then. I'll go with it being. Let's see. Do they drive away? Do Rachel and Deckard drive away into a natural landscape? And in the voiceover narrative, Deckard informs us that despite what was said, it's too bad she won't live. But then again, who does?
Kind of. I don't know that he exactly says something. He says something like
But
that.
do they drive away into a natural landscape?
Yes.
Okay, so that's in the theatrical cut.
Okay.
Yeah. That is not in the final cut. There's no driving away into a natural landscape thing.
Okay.
So there are quite the differences. We didn't do our homework. We need to watch all the versions.
Oh Lord. 5 different versions of Blade Runner.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So
somebody should create like some sort of smash cut of like everything that's different and just like roll them. You know, like
probably
have like 5 screens that just play the differences and just to see like what's up between them.
That it probably does exist in some form. I'm guessing on YouTube. I should look into that. What happens for Deckard and Rachel's love scene? How does that go? And does that exist and such?
Okay, so it exists, and I have this in my notes that it is hella awkward. There is some like extremely dubious consent that's happening right here. It's very like it's very jump cutty. They get back to his apartment. He's, you know, drinking and she's like playing the piano and they're just talking and he falls asleep and then he wakes up and then he's like, you know, tell me you want me, tell me you love me, tell me you want this. And I'm like, what the heck? Like that's really not how love scenes should go. You shouldn't have to tell somebody that they want you. So yeah, so it's definitely awkward as all get out. Like it's so stilted. It's not very natural. It's not very smooth and it's not I don't know, it's just not very witty. You know what I mean? Like it feels like there was this like great buildup of tension in the interview between Deckard and Rachel, and she's testing his boundaries and he's kind of pushing her because of course he's, you know, trying to prove something with the test. So there's this really great like unspoken battle of wills happening. And then you just don't get that payoff in the love scene where they're just like really awkward with each other. And then suddenly it's happening.
Sure.
I don't know.
I mean,
it was very unsatisfying.
A lot of times that stuff is awkward, you know, where it's not scripted. You know, a lot of times what you get in a movie is scripted.
Sure.
There's an expected formula or whatever that doesn't seem particularly realistic.
Sure.
But I wanted to bring it up because he commented on a little bit. He said, usually love scenes aren't justified in films. Usually they're just a wank off, is his take on it. He says, probably could have used more words for the love scene. The whole thing made them, meaning like production and stuff, uneasy, which he said he understood. And I thought it was different in the theatrical cut, but it must have been changed in some various other cuts. And he was saying like, you know, in my mind, because it's especially by today's standard would be the word I would use a little bit rapey, a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not like to early James Bond level. for sure.
Yeah.
But I would say that one thing would be people view replicants differently. You know, they're used in as sex slaves and as dangerous condition workers or whatever. So is there any element of that going on where I do have the right to tell you what's to do? I don't know. He didn't comment on that kind of thing. He did say that the Rachel saying, "Put your hands on me," is the consent. That's the consent, though. So there's definitely a
dubious.
There's definitely an unconsented kiss.
Yeah,
for sure. So
yeah.
Anyways, it is a different scene for sure than you get in a lot of movies. I still love the how she's playing the piano song. I like the mood and the environment. Again, the way it looks. She's coming close to the camera. You get to see the eyes again. There's some different sort of back and forth. She lets her hair down, whatever. But yeah, as sort of the finish, it's a little strange.
Yeah, a little underwhelming. And I have to say I agree with Ridley Scott. I do wish there had been just maybe a hint more dialogue. Just because I know obviously Rachel's going through a whole lot at this point. She's questioning a lot about herself, what she knows, who she is, what she's going to do. But she just seems so unlike herself that it was almost disconcerting to watch her be an entirely different character and have this be the love scene as her just so totally lost. You know what I mean? Like if it had just been sort of like a comfort thing and then maybe we could have moved on and had something in the middle and then we'd gotten to a love scene, I probably would have felt more comfortable with it. And I imagine the actors would have too.
There is it's a I don't know, a hypocrisy that goes along with a fantasy kind of situation. Like I've read all the Twilight books. I think I've mentioned that before, but I'll mention it again. In those, it's a common thing for Edward to sit all night watching Bella sleep.
So creepy.
Now, people reading that and people very into that and stuff, they don't have a problem with this because they want Edward to watch them sleep. They like, yeah, baby, watch me sleep. They want to be desired in that manner, and it's a romantical, fantastical thing that if it was real life, that would be creepy.
Super creepy.
But if The Rock was watching you sleep, Andrea, would you complain? I don't know. I mean, you'd be like, why don't you come in here with me? Why are you watching me sleep? But I mean, ultimately, the idea is that this person is so into me and desires me so much. They are entertained just by watching the beauty of me sleep.
Okay, but see, I'd want to know about it first. If that's like their thing, if like they're like, "Oh, I like really could watch you sleep all night." And I was like, "Cool." Then I know about it and fine, watch me sleep all night. If that like it's your time, it's your choice, like that's great.
Wake up.
But I don't want you to do it without me knowing that you're going to do it.
Yep.
And if this is going to be like a regular thing, like can you maybe just not? Like maybe we work out a schedule like 2 nights a week or something. Like, you know, I just I get that on the one hand that, you know, some people would be into that, but I just feel like it's again something that has to be expressed. And when it isn't, it's just like creepy that you just do it without checking first.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. What else do we have? My other scene that I rewatched was the end because I love some of the performances here. And Howard Rucker, am I saying his name right?
Rucker Howard.
I love that he adjusted the speech, his ending speech.
Oh my God, that was so good.
A sympathetic character in the end, and he does such a good job of bouncing between like scary and animalistic and like I don't know, wise or
Vulnerable.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so the speech with the music at the end and stuff right before he dies, I think is great. Um, and it's a moment as where this God says where Deckard realizes he's becoming part of the Orwellian system.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's not just doing what's right here or something. He
Right.
is, he's retiring these things that, this guy that then just saved him, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He said in the moment that Deckard was hanging on the edge and spit in his last moment at Rucker's character,
Mm-hmm.
um, that's when he decided to grab his arm and save him. Like
Mm-hmm.
seeing that defiance in him yet, and the courage that this man had still,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, decided to spare him. And I just think it's a whole thing there at the end is pretty powerful.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's both a beautifully haunting speech by, a being that wants so badly to be human, fully human, and extend his life, and knows in that moment it's doomed, probably has known all along that it's been doomed, but has still wanted to try. So it's like this beautifully haunting speech from him, and then it's also a larger um encapsulation of some of the movie's big questions, like what is real, what is a memory, and what is
Hmm.
um like what are they worth, and what do they mean? Because we hold so dearly our memories, our feelings, the things that are attached to them, but they're here for such a brief time, and they they can live collectively, but a lot of things can only live in our heads. And does it matter, how long of a memory bank you have before you leave this earth? Is, how do we value that?
Hmm.
um should memories be valued more if they have emotions tied to them or not? It's like this really great question of, what makes up a human and what makes up a near human, and can you learn to be human? And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like this really beautiful, like, I thought, all encapsulating speech. I really
Mhm.
enjoyed that moment.
Yes. Themes you'll see considered again and again in Cyberpunk because we're
Hmm.
adding in the element of technology
Right.
um, into humans or creating our own version of something that certainly seems alive. We've talked about this a lot with Westworld
Of course.
and stuff before.
Well, and
But
also a little bit with, I mean, I felt like this called out Westworld a lot. I felt like Blade Runner 2049 had even more tethers to, kind of the Westworld elements. But this movie also made me think of the movie Nine, where this scientist creates like little mini beings and machines and gives them human intelligence, but then doesn't give them human emotion. And in the machine's case, no matter how hard it tries, it can't seem to absorb or grow or develop human emotion.
yeah,
So it was just really interesting to see that sort of like different approach in different sort of sci-fi elements. Like, can a machine learn to develop human feelings? How would it do so? How would it react? Or does it not, no matter how hard it
yep,
tries? Like, but does it still keep trying to do it? So,
yep. Well, and we see with like the toy maker, going maybe through some sort of crisis of creation there where,
mhm.
he was created. Is he alive that he can himself create? And how he tries to make his dolls and toys and stuff or whatever. Some
Mhm.
bring some other sort of life um, by himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really
I
interesting
like.
question, like, what is the line of life, Like,
Mhm.
where do we designate it?
And does it exactly matter? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, true.
we do redefine things different times. Usually, like I would say something with life is, you know, you need to have your species needs to have the ability to reproduce a non-copy, you know.
Hmm.
So you can't just create a copy of yourself. You need to create
And
something
call it
that is
life. Yeah.
essentially random,
Hmm.
and yeah, and which would not be something generally under the ability category of abilities that a replicant or an android or a whatever would have.
Right.
So, all right, we have another Blade Runner movie,
We do.
2049.
Okay.
Um,
Just before we start, I have to say I saw the runtime on this and was like,
yeah,
what?
yeah, yep.
Whoa.
One of the biggest downfalls of this film. Um,
It
you
is
know,
so great, and once I got into it, I was really enjoying it, and I found myself like able to move along with the story. I did pause it a couple different times to like go and do something else. I felt like it was like easily paused in some moments, but whoa, a runtime of 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's a bit much. A bit
yep,
much.
yep. I mean, look, it is Lord of the Rings, and I go into it expecting it to begin with. And it's like
Right.
I watch those movies in halves, you know.
Yep.
So I wonder if there's a good breaking point where you could watch this movie in halves because it really deserves it.
Yes.
It's long
Yes.
enough. But and look, it's sad. Someone will sit down and binge watch 4 episodes of something and not complain about it. And then you got a movie that's longer, and it's like, oh my God, so long. But there's
But
those
you
natural breaks in the
exactly. Exactly.
episodes, and
You pause
so
it and you're like you feel completely done and you're like, "Cool, I can like go, go to the bathroom or make a sandwich or whatever," and it
yep,
doesn't feel as like bad as when you pause a movie and you're like, "Ah, but I
yep,
can't do it anymore." So,
yep.
yeah, it's different.
Okay, so other general thoughts like this one live up to the original? Did it exceed it? How did you like the cast?
Yeah, I enjoyed the characters in this movie more, I think, because everybody felt a little bit more purposeful. Um,
Okay.
in the original Blade Runner, I know that, Deckard is tracking down this whole group of Nexus sixes. I think
Hmm.
that's how you would group them. Um, so that he can get ultimately to Rutger Hauer's character Roy to take them all down. But I just felt like some of them were a little bit extraneous. There were just some they didn't need to be. I'm thinking, I think mostly of Daryl Hannah's Pris or Pre, however you say her name. Um, she just felt like an extraneous character that I didn't really get invested in. Even the Snake
Yep.
Charmer, I wasn't really like, you need to be here. So I felt
Yeah.
more of the impact of casting, I think, in Blade Runner 2049, where
The
everybody
side
felt
characters.
they just
Yeah.
had more to do. They had more to do
Yep.
with what was happening. So I was just like,
Be-
I
because
don't
it
know.
was
I was
so
just
long.
happier with them. Yeah, yeah, I guess.
I mean,
Everybody
because
yeah. Everybody had to do
uh,
something to fill those, 2 hours and 40 minutes, but yeah.
the side characters in the original definitely were unexplored. Like the ones you feel for, I think, are Deckard, Rachel, and I forget his name, but
Roy.
Rutger's character.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yes, everyone else, like you mentioned, Pre and the Edward James Olmos's character.
Mhm. The
Um,
toy maker. I mean, they're just
yeah,
there and
they
they're
they they
interesting,
mm,
but they're
they
just
clearly
they're
have backstories. They fill out the world, but
right.
yeah, you do spend time with the side characters in 2049 for sure.
Yep.
And I thought to great effect because some of the characters I was most impressed by. I was going to look up names of them too, or whatever, so I could refer to them by name. Because yeah, I just don't remember names in movies. I guess unless I
Sure.
watched it over and over.
Sure.
Um, but the I call it the right arm of Wallace. Um, I thought that
Oh, yeah, yeah,
she
yeah.
was great.
She
One of my
was
favorite
great.
parts of the film, for sure. Um, Lieutenant, no, that's the cop. She was interesting. Okay, so we'll talk about her for a second. Robin Wright playing Lieutenant Joshi, I would guess Hoshi, but I guess Joshi, and
Sure.
is Kay's boss.
Yeah.
Um, she was very. I guess we could get to the meat of it. The idea that that two replicants, Harrison Ford's Deckard and Rachel, procreated. That they managed to do it. They're replicants. Like, so it calls back to when Meryl mentioned that Rachel was a test, like an experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yep.
an experiment for what? Okay. And that it would be so set up to meet Deckard potentially,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, create a child. Um, well, finding this out that this has happened, Lieutenant Joshi um, is pretty convinced that no one should know about this. This is bad news. And she has some line about a wall. Like, I made note of it. If I can find it. Um, I wrote, "You don't know what will happen, police chief." Um, oh yeah, tell people there is no wall and you have a war. I don't
Yeah.
understand what that's about, if this is referring to anything else or whatever, but I didn't understand what are her fears and what did you think of this character?
Sure. Yeah, it took me a little bit, yes. Sorry, Alan just was talking about Wallace's right arm here, Love. Love. I'm gonna guess Love. It's Luv.
Mm,
That was the character name we were searching for before. But
mm,
to get back to Robin Wright's character, it took me a little bit to get into her motivations. Um, I think she played like a great, kind of hard nosed, like I'm holding the line. I'm this, bulwark of safety. I am the last defense, and so are my, my crew, be they human or replicant in Ryan Gosling's case. And so that's where I think that whole like wall comment came from. Is like people need that sense of security that's there and this sense of safety, even if it's an illusion. If you take that away from them, then people just like go nuts. And so the wall for people is we're people because we can procreate, and replicants are not because they can't do these sort of things that we can do. And if you take down that wall that separates them, then you have
sure.
chaos. And it was a very like metaphorical line to be such like a throwaway line.
Mhm.
So I sort of wish that had been given a little bit more depth. Um,
Wanted the
but
movie to
I
be longer, you saying?
God, no. Just maybe use some of the time to give her a better speech there. Um, but yeah, I enjoyed her character for what she was. She was very straightforward. She was easy to understand. She, I think, played her part well, and it was just, like a person who's in the system, holds up the system, knows that's her job, and that's all she wants to do is hold up the system. She doesn't want to look for any nuance. She doesn't want to go in any direction
Yep.
other than the black and white direction she's already mapped out for herself. So she was
Yeah.
she was a good character, and I think Robin Wright played it well.
Yeah.
I think she
Um,
did have like a little bit of a soft spot for Kay, as we kind of see at the end where she
yes.
refuses to give him up. But I think that's more along the lines of, he's a member of my team and I don't betray my team, you know?
She was ready to jump his bones. He was in his apartment and she's like, "What happens if I finish this bottle?" Is
What?
there drinking? She's in his apartment and they're talking and she's drinking some of his whatever alcohol he has. And she says, "What happens if I finish this bottle?" And I forget what he says, like, I don't remember his response, but
Uh-huh.
she's waiting for him to to want her.
Yeah.
That's how I read that scene for sure.
Okay.
And so to me, there was definitely a connection there where, like, sometimes I forget that you're not human and you are part of my team. You've done a good job. And damn, I'm in your apartment. I'm drinking.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I sort of, I guess I read that a little bit, but I also, I mean, you go back to like her being like, you do soulless really well. It's like she does know, but she doesn't know. So I don't know. I don't know that necessarily there's like an extra special attachment there, but I think there is some form of.
I think I'm not saying she loves him. I'm saying that I think that there's this idea of viewing skin jobs
Hmm.
as less than and
Yeah.
for a function. And so whether it's here, I need you for violence, I need you for sex, I need you to do a dirty job, I need
Hmm.
you to whatever, like you're to serve me.
Yeah.
And so someone, I think it was Wallace, yeah, Wallace, Jared Leto's character says, at some point humanity lost the nerve for human slavery. So here we are, basically,
Yeah.
kind of thing, whatever. Um, but yeah, do you have thoughts on Jared Leto's character, Wallace?
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't in terribly much of the movie, so
No.
I think that was the right usage of him, just as um, Tyrell wasn't a big part of the original Blade Runner. He was sprinkled in there to give an effect of, like this menacing, corporation owner. Um, this sort of like a little twisted creative mastermind kind of thing, birthing a new race and owning it, and owning the fact that these are like people and near people and just being like whatever. It's not technically people, so I can skate that line. Um, I think Jared Leto did a pretty decent job. I liked the look of his character. I loved again the like this sort of like shining reflective pupil effect that they had going on with him, because it was just such like a callback to the first movie.
Hmm.
I wasn't totally convinced. He just his there was something about his voice that didn't give me like this slithery feeling that I got in the first movie with Tyrell. You
Interesting.
know? It just didn't quite, the menace I think wasn't quite there in his voice. The menace was there in his appearance, and I just didn't get it conveyed in the tone of his character. So,
Okay.
it was a good almost for me.
We definitely read the some of the characters, or at least Tyrell, a little differently, and maybe it comes from me watching the commentary in this one
Sure.
versus whatever. But to me, I read Tyrell as a person that is sort of a mad scientist that really cares for his creations, really takes pride in his creations, and the idea that he can, you know, yeah, he gets to play God, um, but has an actual, um, in a way, love for what he makes. Whereas I read Wallace as just a guy that is so egotistical
Mhm.
that he wants to be able to create something that can create life naturally just because he can then say he did it,
Mhm.
and like he is god of that and ruler of that, not because
Yeah.
it will actually. And I don't know, I think Jared Leto did a good job. I didn't fully get his character.
Mhm.
um
I feel like Jared Leto's, Neander Wallace was a little bit more physically attuned. He was a little bit more physically cruel and interested more in like physical elements, where he tortures kind of his newborn creation
yeah.
in the moment she's born into her new body. like you said, he's very obsessed with like I want to create life because I want to be the controller of life. There's something like very interesting to me about like physically creating the life. Whereas I felt Tyrell was worked more in theoreticals. Um, like Wallace was like kind of physically sociopathic and Tyrell was theoretically sociopathic. There was nothing wrong to him about what he did. You know, he didn't really think about the whole physical portion of it, but he thought about and he didn't see anything wrong in like, you know, this batch of my creation has gone rogue, go kill them. You know, he wasn't really interested in their bodies. He was just interested in like the theoreticals of his technology. So I just thought that they were operating on different planes where, you know, Jared Leto was a little bit more tactilely evil and we saw him
Sure.
like get his hands messy, whereas Tyrell was
Yep.
again dealing in like the theoreticals of what he was doing with his corporation. And I just think that makes him more like convincing that way, that he's not like muddying his hands. He doesn't really, you know, once people have outlived their usefulness, like the toy maker, like they just go away. They're just, we don't think about
Yep.
them. We don't have to do anything to them because other people do that. Whereas Jared Leto, as Neander Wallace, was like, I want to physically be, you know, I want to have my hands in this. I want to like be there, be present. So
And he didn't have to be because his amazing assistant,
I know who can do freaking
love.
anything.
Yeah, I really liked this character. I loved
Loved her.
really the
To pun
performance
it
in
a little bit.
particular. She was I loved the rage, you know. Her
Yeah.
look was cool. It was reminiscent of Rachel
Yep.
in
Without
ways,
being
and she
much.
just yeah, and she was complex in that
Yep.
she seemed like she had emotion when Wallace was so mean to the newborn creation, basically.
Mhm.
That seemed to upset her, but then she'll go to no lengths to like take anyone out, you know, merciless to the one lab tech guy to do it,
Mhm.
looking at analyze bones, Coco, you know,
To
taking him out.
Lieutenant.
And yep, whoever it was in my way. And I thought she did a very good job. And I really liked the rage that she, like the fight between her and Kay in the
Great.
water as the thing is sinking. I thought that was really good.
Yes.
Um, and to me, it was like in the third season of Westworld, they try to do android chick fighting a lot. And
Mhm.
it's like, it wasn't convincing to me. And to me, this was a lot more what I was looking for. I could
Agreed.
feel it.
Agreed.
So,
Yeah. Well, it was much more real. It was much more close up. Their movements were practiced. They were clearly fighters, but like Westworld, I felt like tried to overdo it a little bit with the everybody's like a master of fighting and everybody's just so good. Do you know what I mean? Like
what
between
was kung fu fighting? So, someone should do a supercut. Clearly put Westworld season 3 and just like mash up to that.
Oh, there's an idea for the internet. That's a way to
Yeah.
occupy your time.
Yeah.
Um, but you know what I mean? Like Westworld felt the fight scenes
Yeah.
felt a little bit overproduced and like this felt a little more natural. Like
Necessary. Yeah.
actual people fighting.
Yep. Um, other things you loved or didn't love or
Um, let's see. I I did. So obviously, one of the biggest parts about 2049, it you know coming towards the end, is that Deckard comes back,
Mhm.
and we do get an answer to the question of is he a replicant because he's
Yep.
now aging. So of course he isn't. So that was kind of an interesting like answering of a question from the original without really answering it.
But so hmm I guess I didn't know. I didn't see it that way for sure.
For sure,
I mean, do they answer that exactly?
they
Because he
don't.
is aging, but we
They
don't. I
don't
mean,
really
these
address
things can have
it.
children,
Right.
so
Right. So they don't really address it, but I really kind of took it as he is human, um, just because I didn't feel like it was possible for, um, him to age that much and still be a replicant and still be alive. I just kind of took it as like, he's human now.
Okay.
Or, always was, I guess. So yeah, he certainly also didn't seem to, um because I think to assume he's a replicant would assume, again, he's one of the ones that were programmed for longevity, and
Mhm.
there just weren't that many of those in the original Blade Runner. Like, we already made an exception for Rachel because she was like an experiment, she was like a new kind, and she was gonna go and, like, have no expiration date, and then to also assume that somehow Deckard was one of those too, I just felt like was maybe gonna be a bit of a stretch. So I just took it like I tried to just, simplest explanation is best. He's human.
Yeah, what they had the meeting though with Wallace,
Mhm.
and Wallace is seemingly suggesting that perhaps he was put there and designed for a purpose. Wow, I mean, I should have thought about this more because I honestly thought, well, he's a replicant that can age. That's let's see. Uh, duh, duh, duh. Boy, we're gonna have to like look and see what the rest of the internet thinks
Yeah.
here.
I'm sure there's,
Uh,
like, vast arguments on both sides. Um, but yeah, I
yeah.
mean, to abandon, like, that particular line for a moment, either as a replicant or as a human, Deckard is back, and of course, we get,
Mhm.
Kay tracking him down, and which sets off this whole chain of events where, you know, Deckard's gonna be taken, um, and doesn't wanna go back, has been spending his whole life running from, not only his daughter, as we learn, that his child is in fact a girl and not Ryan Gosling, as the first part of the movie kind of like directs us to believe as a sort of red herring. But he's been running from anybody knowing the truth about what replicants can do. He's been running potentially from a replicant rebellion that's been brewing in the underground system. So, yeah, it's just obviously a pretty pivotal moment for our characters in that moment in time. And I thought it was just enough of Harrison Ford's character in the movie without having him like take it over. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It was a good use of
it
his
was.
character to
Yep.
be there for that part of the movie and not be there for more of it.
Yep.
So,
Sure.
I really enjoyed it because I think they could have gone a different way where, like, Kay finds him earlier and they go through some
Yeah.
stuff and they're on the run and, very, like, typical, almost like buddy cop kind of thing,
Yep.
and they could have done
It
that,
really
and I
wasn't
really wouldn't
about
have
them.
liked that. I just re I
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I really
Yep.
liked him in this kind of corner of the movie.
So I see on the internet there are definitely arguments and cases to be made for both
Sure.
ways. The thing that stuck out to me is Ridley Scott, in particular, during the commentary, mentioned that he liked the idea of Deckard being a replicant,
Yeah.
and within the at least within the final cut, it made sense. There was Edward James Olmos's character. He was always making the little figures and leaving the little like signs and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So Deckard keeps having this dream of unicorns. Like that's one thing you see like before preceding the love scene is like he's like asleep and he's dreaming of his unicorn running. And it seems out of place. Like why that? And so it's not something that he admits to someone. It's a weird thing or whatever. But then at the very end, when he gets back to the place and Rachel's alive and he leaves with her, he notices, and I don't know if this is in your theatrical cut or not, he notices a folded paper thing of a
Yes.
unicorn that was
Yeah.
left by Edward James Olmos's character.
So do you see
You
do you see Alan's note there?
No. Let's see. Say. Um, added in the director's cut and final cut. Okay, so you didn't see that.
No, so I saw no unicorn dream sequence. I saw the folded up paper unicorn that Edward James almost leaves him.
See, but what's the purpose of that then? What did you see as the purpose of that?
I saw it as like, I know you're alive, but I'm not going to tell anybody, and like go out there and get your dream kind of thing. Like just like a
Okay.
sign of like, you know what I mean? Like this is the last thing we'll ever communicate about. You know, I just took it as a sign of like, go on, get going, and you know, I know you're alive and sayonara, buddy.
So in these other cuts, it's more
So yeah, so this
I
would make sense
know.
where like,
Yeah,
yeah, where you're
I
coming
know
from and
your
where I'm coming
dream.
from are different for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I know your dream
Your
kind of
dream.
thing.
Yep. Because you're fake.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's it. See, that's why we got to watch all the versions. Darn
That's
it.
true. That's true.
Um, Other characters, I was happy to see that Edward James almost came back for a cameo.
Yes. That was
Sure.
another great cameo. Well used. Well
Very well
used.
done. Yep. And then the character of Joy was great.
Yeah.
Brought the Her movie vibes for
Yep.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Less awkward, I have to say, and more romantic.
Yes.
Her is like, so cringy. And this was like, okay, I mean, this is very interesting or whatever, but it was a cool use of a sci-fi thing.
Yes.
That could be possible. That, yeah.
And
she's a very interesting character.
And I have to say the technology that went into creating that scene, that constant shifting and blending and unblending of Joy and Mariette's faces and bodies was cool. That was
Yeah, it was.
amazing.
Oh,
I
it's like
mean,
more hands, like more
right?
fingers.
And like
Like it was,
sometimes they were together and then apart, and then
yeah.
their faces would shift more towards, you know, a blend of the two, but then it would be one more than the other. I felt like that was great. It wasn't weird. It didn't pull me out. Like I knew what was happening the whole time, and it was done in such a way that like nothing was like startling or you know, off-putting. It was wonderful. So kudos on, you know, whoever ran technology point on that scene, because well done. That is a great use, I think, of what technology can do.
And Ana de Armas was
Yes.
in Knives Out, which I didn't realize.
Oh yeah, you didn't know that?
Knives Out. No, it's like I recognize
She's like the
this
main
person.
character.
I know, yeah. And she's in No Time to Die, which we haven't seen
Yes.
yet, but
Yes,
you know.
she is indeed.
So, but I thought she did a really good job, and I think that I mean, I wrote a comment somewhere of how like what like mind fuck the future like is and will be. Like these are the things that are going to I left a where was that? Something
It's
about
like right
how
at the beginning. It's the beginning of notes.
Yeah, the future is really going to mess with people.
Yes.
You know, people will have more and more trouble being happy despite having more and more, like having more access to things and everything. And I think we already see that where we have this people are missing what really brings them joy or happiness. And it's always this stuff or something. And this kind of thing is going to really play tricks with your brain, where Joy is an AI made by Wallace Company that anyone can buy and use and experience and whatever. And presumably that AI is going to love you, every one of you, as much as this Joy loves Kay. And what does that mean to you? Is that real? Is that something worth having? Is that something that is desirable? Because I fully believe we're going to have this for sure.
Oh
this
yeah.
Thing.
There's already like VR versions of this. Do you know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like, you can already get it essentially what joy is in VR. So
Right.
it's just like bringing that into, um, like a three-dimensional space.
But you have the intelligence there that we are not capable of at this point. The
Yeah,
awareness, the
yeah.
understanding,
We have
the
yeah,
you
I should
can't
say we have
tell
like an
them
early
from a
rumblings of what this
yeah.
is. Yeah.
I mean, you just can see this happening, and we see this with what's interesting with her. So as we talk about the movie Her just a little bit to relate it
Mhm. Yeah.
in this, that character is connected, that AI is one AI basically, and
Mhm.
it can manage everybody. That's the way I remember it. It can manage everybody's interactions that she's having, kind of, or is
Mhm.
at least connected. No, that's wrong, I think. But she's connected to everything else. She can go out on the internet. She can like be connected to other networks and experience it. She's not like tied. Joy here is almost tied to his apartment. Like, I'm in this
Yeah.
console on the wall. This is where I am,
Yeah, and then he
and
gets like
this
that
is it.
little like enabler device or whatever so
Where you
she's
can take her with.
portable.
Yeah,
Yeah. But she's
but
she's
she's
just
not like,
tied to those things.
yep. But she's
She's
not
not
having interactions with other
right.
AIs and other
Right.
parts of the
Right.
world and
She's
other
not
things.
independently mobile.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, and it, I, I won't go into spoilers for Her but people should watch that because it has a really unique perspective, and I think a very realistic perspective on how AIs could be if
Sure.
programmed without constraints, I guess. And it
Sure.
seems like Joy's programming is like to be. You've seen Her, right? You've seen it.
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. We should watch that because I don't want to spoil anything, and we should talk more about um, Scarlett Johansson's AI
Mhm.
version and then Joy in comparison after we've both seen that.
Mm.
We should do that
Sure.
sometime. So, but yeah, I was very
Yeah, I've been
convinced.
interested
I
in
felt
seeing
very
her.
bad for her. What's that?
I'm interested in seeing her. I just hadn't gotten around to it yet.
Mhm.
So, yeah, Joy was a great character.
Mhm.
Very sympathetic and again pushing I think the limits of what do we ascribe humanness to.
Yeah.
Um she's a program but she almost seems so real at points, you know.
Yep.
Who are we to say no?
Right. Yeah, I think I had made a comment somewhere, and I've done this consistently, I think, throughout any of our Westworld stuff or whatever, how I'm not convinced often by the way that people always treat an AI as
Yeah.
like in such a aggressive or demeaning way, So they're always calling Kay skin suit and that kind of thing.
Skin
And I
job.
think that the way that we, anthropomorphize anything, and then feel bad for it, or at least I do. I don't know. I feel like most people probably do. But I guess it is basing off of my own understanding, that you just you have sympathy for something that seems real, that seems to
Yeah.
also have sympathy, to look back in you in the eyes with a knowing, you know.
Right.
Um, there's a care for um, creatures and anything that seems to have intelligence, just
Mhm.
to varying degrees. But I just feel like when you have this thing that isn't human, but
Mhm.
if you didn't know it, you wouldn't
Right.
know it. Um, that you just wouldn't act that way. Most people, you know. What do you think? Would everybody all of a sudden treat a woman as subhuman because they know she's not a real human? But as far as when they talk to her and whatever, I mean, obviously, some people
Obviously,
are bad people.
yes.
A lot of people are bad people. So,
That's right.
but I
Yeah.
guess it depends on how you view humanity, like as an individual, on an individual level. Like, will people be assholes to something or not? People aren't assholes to
I
dogs
right.
most of the time. Some
Yeah.
people are.
I think on the whole, if I mean, who can ever speak for humanity broadly, but on the whole, I would say no. I think that it's too much ingrained in us that when we see something that's so near human that we do forget, and we do tend to treat people, especially when they express emotions similar to our own, whether real or faked, or implanted or whatever, that we do tend to like treat them normally. We just tend to like default into like our
Mm,
normal patterns with people. Um, you know, in Blade Runner or in Westworld, it's not that these replicants don't express emotion. It's that, that we are supposed to know that they don't feel it. You know what I mean?
right.
Like it's not that
Right.
they can't like convincingly portray an emotion. And I think even the portrayal of that is close enough to the real thing that for most people you would react how you normally do to a human.
Right. That's
But
the thing.
yes, obviously there are going to be assholes out there who are just going to be assholes because they're assholes to other people, they're assholes to dogs, they're, just bad people all around to whatever sort of being
Yeah.
um that they encounter. Uh I mean, I thought the name calling was a little bit gratuitous, but it didn't bother me enough because I think it was just like one or two people shouting skin
Mm,
job at him, and I was like, well, those just must be the asshole people.
sure.
So,
It's like yeah, in Westworld they have to it's the guests are told that the hosts don't feel, they're not humans, they don't have this, they're
right.
not the same way, they're just but as soon as you then witness what they are,
Mhm.
I don't know. Are you convinced anymore? Or are you like, it's close enough? It's
Yeah.
close enough.
I think a lot of the times what we see in Westworld is um very accurate in the sense of if people are going to do anything to the hosts, they really have to be like talked into it. I mean, of course we see like William just go, absolutely nuts doing whatever he wants, the man in black.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
but because he's been there so many times and he's already seen it before, he's already desensitized to the whole thing. Most
Yeah,
guests, when they come to Westworld, aren't coming there for the 16th, 17th time. They're coming there for the first time,
right.
maybe the second. And I think, your veneer is still sort of there. The world is still sort of too surface level for you to like understand and have seen, the way that you can just do anything to a host, or that you're supposed to be allowed to do anything to a host. So,
Yep. Well, I think this movie was very cleverly written. It took you on an
mhm.
emotional ride in a way, that how it convinced you that Kay or Joe was was the person we're looking for here.
Yeah, yeah.
And then to take that away from us and from him.
Mhm.
And then to plant someone in the film that we all had already met, who is the person to reveal to him, confirm
Mhm.
to him that he is that person, was
Yeah.
actually her. Like it's well placed, and it makes it
Yes.
tragic for him that he has to go through this identity crisis.
Again.
And this, yeah, and it's so really taken on a ride, and I felt that as an audience member,
Mhm.
and then when it was her, it made so much sense
Yeah.
being the one in charge of the memories.
Mhm.
And yeah, it
Yeah.
just
Well
that
done.
yeah.
Well done, well scripted, and I have to say well acted by Ryan Gosling. He did,
Mhm.
I think, a really great job throughout this entire movie.
Yep. I commented earlier, he does a good job of being soulless because I'm actually not a big fan of Ryan Gosling, but he did a very good job. He did do that kind of mechanic element, but then
Mhm.
you could see when it was breaking down and like,
Yes.
this is not
Wasn't
how it's supposed to be. And
right, wasn't too over the top, like, there was just enough breakdowns in moments, or, like, there were just very small, beginnings of tears kind of thing. I think it really
Yeah.
worked. I think this role really worked for him.
When he found the wooden toy exactly where he thought he left it,
Mhm.
you could almost see like circuits begin to fry. Like
Yes.
just couldn't
Yes.
quite, he's like shaking a little bit and just like,
It wasn't a human breakdown. It was such a
yeah,
convincing portrayal of a machine just
yep,
not being able to accept what was
malfunctioning.
happening.
Like I
Yeah.
can't, is it a one
Yes.
or a zero? Like, I don't know. Like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, that
yep.
was wonderfully, wonderfully acted.
And
So, yeah,
I
good.
love then again when he's in the room with the actual child and finds out then his breakdown then, and it's like, man, you really don't want to be
Mhm.
this, but it contradicts what you understand, everything you understand. And
Mhm.
yeah, it was it was well paced, the reveals were good. I
Mhm.
liked that he yeah, I don't know, a lot of good stuff. I like the calls back. You wrote the raincoat callback too. That's
Yeah.
good. um
Yeah, I love that Joy
Callback
was
to some
wearing
good
that.
fashion.
Although the
Yep.
second she put that on, I was like, "Oh, there she goes."
Which was so sad. I love
Yes.
you.
Uh, yep.
And I love the continuation of the amber tones and the rippling water light reflections in like the Wallace place. Again, it's like the pyramids, the kind of Goliath structure. I like all that. I thought the soundtrack, they worked well to make it feel like a continuation at for sure to start, and then it verged a little like Hans Zimmery, a little blah stuff
Yeah.
more, which I was okay with, and especially being they in the end wrapped it up with pulling the theme, a theme from Blade Runner for the end as Kay is like looking into the sky and the snow is falling and stuff. So.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, overall, I really enjoyed both of these movies. I mean, I think the original Blade Runner is rightfully iconic. Um, and I think 2049 does a great job of continuing the story while still holding its own. It doesn't feel the need to pay too much homage to Blade Runner, but it clearly knows where it got its roots from. It's a
Yep.
well done sequel. And how many times can you say that?
Yeah. I think its weakest points were probably leaving the city.
Yeah.
I thought
Mhm.
if there was a detour that didn't need to happen or take so long and all that, it was that.
Mhm.
That's because Ashley was wondering, is there a part that could be cut out or something because it's so long? And it's like maybe it's that because it starts trying to answer some questions potentially. I think it leaves some more, but it's like you do have a responsibility all of a sudden when you're going to show people outside the city. You're going to show what that is. You're expanding the scope of the world here.
Yep.
And you are creating a lot of questions with it. I never like the whole idea where, like, there are buildings and battleships and all this stuff out there that, like, would be people would repurpose this. So, like, it definitely makes
Mhm.
me needing an explanation as to why there's a few nomads out here amongst all this these precious metals, basically. Like, what
Yep.
is happening in this situation? But
Yep.
yeah, expanding the scope of the world, um, but that brings more questions with it, and so I don't know.
Yeah.
That was maybe the least successful to me, or something.
I agree. I felt like we were just introduced to this, like, oh, here's like this fringe society that's happening out here. Okay, bye, y'all. Like, you're all
Hmm.
dead now. It felt unnecessary. I felt like the orphanage part could have been shot inside the city. I
Yep.
agree that it didn't really
Exactly.
need to be this sort of like outer whatever limits, outer boroughs, whatever you want to call this place.
Yep.
Um, and I think that could have like trimmed some time just to like have that all easily accessible, where we could just
Yep.
find it in the city.
Yep.
I think the orphanage scene needed to happen, but we could have condensed some stuff.
Yep. You could have been in the lower streets, the slummy whatever, and
Absolutely.
you didn't have to have the whole like people ganging up on you then, and then here we're gonna have this satellite strike because I'm watching you, kind of thing, which they could have answered in other ways, because I definitely was, that's always something I consider. It's like when we look at stuff today, your phone could be tracked wherever, if it's wanted, is being used at different times in different countries for all kinds of things. Every smart device you have, like, it's a lot of connected stuff. And in this world, there seems to be an unlikely chance that a machine that's so expensive, a replicant, couldn't be 100% tracked all the time, that the AIs, that they wouldn't be able to know and listen in to everything they're saying and is being said to them all the time, and that kind of thing. So I can only assume there was shockingly some sort of privacy measure or like cultural shift where a lot of this stuff was cut off from outside connection,
Right.
or people wouldn't accept it into their lives.
Right.
So that's how I rationalize it. But yeah. Well, Alan, did we set a record for time yet? I don't know what we're at. But I mean, a very long movie deserves a very long podcast.
That's right. That's right.
So,
and we had 2 movies to talk about. So, I mean,
yeah,
had to get a lot of it.
Yeah. I mean, I should have known 2 movies. We really didn't need any news. But what do you do?
Alan.
What do you say?
He said he can't wait for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
you're gonna be so sorry, Alan.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, he says that Hans Zimmer did work on the score. I didn't realize that. Okay. All right. Well, there you go.
8-hour stream. Yeah.
8-hour stream. Yeah. I mean, let's do
I
it.
have that much to say about it. So, buckle in, make yourself some food, and I hope you went to the bathroom first.
Okay, we can do it. We can do a like a 2-hour podcast on the Hobbit trilogy, and then 6 hours on the original movies. I think 2 hours a movie. I think that's good.
I think it is too. Again, and yeah, I mean, really, the Hobbit. There's just so much more less to say. You know what I mean? There's just it's already stretched too long. Let's recondense it back down.
Yep. Right. Yep. Let's come up with a better script for the movie they should have made in one film. How about that?
I bet we could do that.
Yeah, I feel like it.
Challenge accepted.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening this week, watching. We're here on Twitch, where we're streaming. You can find this video on YouTube. We'll be on all the podcast directories, or most of them anyways. Leave us a thumbs up, follow, like, share, review, all that sort of good stuff that helps us be seen. Leave us comments. Let us know, is Deckard a replicant or not? What's your take on that? It is Cyberpunk time as we come into the holidays, so that's why the video opening is a little bit different. Maybe we'll change it up next week too, or whatever. If you have ideas for Cyberpunk, things we must watch or consume, let us know what that is. But expect more leading up to the Cyberpunk 2077 game. We're on Twitter and Facebook. You can find us there. Thank you to Killing the Flower for a theme. I messed with it this week, okay? So it does not normally sound like that. They did not endorse those changes. I do apologize.
God, we're going to run into copyright issues, John.
I know, right? Our normal theme is brought to you by Killing the Flower. So check out their stuff on Instagram and YouTube and Spotify. I think that's about it. Otherwise, I was excited to talk about these movies. I'm glad you joined me to do it. And we'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Cheers, everyone.